the rolling hills of Judah, in the little town of Bethlehem, a boy tended sheep under the burning sun. His name was David, the youngest of Jesse's sons. While his brothers were strong and battle-hardened, David was dismissed as a mere boy, small in stature, with skin kissed by the wilderness and hair that glowed red like fire under the sun. But in the solitude of the fields, he learned what his brothers never did: the courage of faith. With a sling in his hand and songs on his lips, he defended his flock. Lions roared, bears charged, but David's arm never trembled. When claws and fangs struck, he seized them by the mane and slew them. Alone with his harp, he sang psalms to the God of Israel, melodies that would one day echo through eternity. One day, the prophet Samuel arrived at Jesse's house with oil and fire in his eyes. God had rejected Saul as king, and a new shepherd of his people must be chosen. Jesse brought his sons, strong and tall, but none were chosen. Samuel asked, "Are these all?" Jesse hesitated, then confessed, "The youngest remains, keeping the sheep." David entered, ruddy with beautiful eyes and red hair shining like flame. The Lord spoke to Samuel, "Arise, anoint him, for this is the one." The horn of oil poured over David's head, and the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him from that day forward. A boy with a harp was now marked as the king of destiny. Later that year, the valley of Elah thundered with fear. Day after day, the Philistine champion Goliath, a giant of nearly 10 feet, clad in bronze from head to toe, roared his challenge. "Send me a man to fight. If he kills me, we will serve you. If I prevail, you will be our slaves." His voice echoed across the hills, and the armies of Israel trembled. At the head of Israel stood King Saul, the tallest man in the nation, head and shoulders above his people. Yet the king who should have led the charge cowered in silence, his heart faint, his spirit broken. For 40 days Saul hid behind his armor while the people despaired. But into this valley of fear came a boy, ruddy, red-haired and young, a shepherd named David. Sent by his father Jesse to deliver bread, he heard the giant's blasphemy and felt fire in his heart. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? His brothers mocked him. "You are arrogant. You only came to watch the battle." But David's courage outshone their fear. He went before Saul and said, "Let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will fight this Philistine." Saul, the coward king, hesitated. "You are but a youth, and he is a man of war from his youth." But David replied with fire, "I kept my father's sheep. A lion came, and I struck it down. A bear came, and I slew it. The same God who delivered me from the paw of the lion, and the bear will deliver me from this Philistine." Saul, too afraid to fight himself, gave David his armor. But the boy refused. "I cannot go with these, for I have not tested them." He chose instead his sling, 5 smooth stones, and the presence of God Goliath saw him and laughed. "Am I a dog, that you come at me with sticks? Come, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field." But David answered with thunder, "You come to me with sword, spear, and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, whom you have defied. Today the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down, that all the earth may know there is a God in Israel." The giant advanced, towering, armored like a mountain, but David ran to meet him, sling whirling in the air. A single stone flew, guided by heaven, striking Goliath in the forehead. The mighty warrior collapsed face down in the dust. David drew Goliath's own sword and cut off his head. The Philistines fled in terror, and Israel roared in triumph. The boy who trusted God had defeated the giant who mocked him. The coward king hid, but the shepherd stood. David's victory was not won by strength, nor by size, but by faith. for the Lord was with him, and with God even a boy could fell a giant. From that day David was a hero, yet Saul's heart darkened with envy. The women sang, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s." Jealousy festered, and Saul sought to kill him. Spears flew across the palace hall, but David escaped. Jonathan, Saul's son, loved David as his own soul. Their covenant of friendship burned brighter than Saul's hatred. But Saul's fury hunted David from cave to cave, from wilderness to wilderness. Twice David spared Saul's life, once in a cave in En-Gedi, cutting the edge of his robe, and once in Saul's own camp, taking his spear while he slept. "I will not touch the Lord's anointed," David declared, proving his greatness lay not in rebellion, but in restraint. Years of exile forged David's army. The mighty men, warriors who slew lions in pits, giants with spears, and armies single-handedly. David, the fugitive, became the leader of legends. Even in exile, God was shaping Israel's future king. When Saul fell in battle on Mount Gilboa, pierced by the Philistines, David tore his garments and wept, "How the mighty have fallen!" Though Saul had hunted him, David mourned his enemy, proving his heart was not ruled by vengeance. The tribes crowned David king in Hebron, then all Israel in Jerusalem. He captured the fortress of Zion, making it his city. The Ark of the Covenant was brought with shouts and trumpets, and David danced before the Lord with all his might. Clothed only in a linen ephod, unashamed in worship, God made a covenant with David. "Your throne shall be established forever." The shepherd who sang in fields was now the king whose line would birth the Messiah. The warrior king, David's reign was filled with battles. He struck down Philistines, Moabites, Ammonites, and Edomites. He subdued giants, led armies, and expanded Israel to glory. His mighty men carved legends in his name. One slew 800 with a spear. Another stood alone in a lentil field and struck down Philistines until his hand clung to the sword. David himself, with red hair blazing like fire, fought with the fury of a lion and the heart of a poet, the fall and the sword. But even kings stumble from his palace roof. David saw Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah, bathing, desire ignited into sin. He took her, and when she conceived, he arranged Uriah's death in battle. The prophet Nathan came with a story of a rich man stealing a poor man's lamb. David burned with anger. "That man deserves to die," Nathan thundered. "You are the man." Convicted, David fell to the ground, crying, "Against you, O Lord, have I sinned." He fasted, wept, and wrote psalms of repentance God forgave, but the sword never departed from his house. His son Absalom rose in rebellion, handsome and ambitious, stealing the hearts of the people. David fled Jerusalem barefoot, weeping. When Absalom died, caught in a tree, pierced by Joab's spears, David sobbed, "O my son Absalom, my son, would God I had died for you." The warrior king was still a father. Through trials, victories, and failures, David remained a man after God's own heart. His psalms became the hymns of Israel, songs of sorrow, joy, prophecy, and worship. He reigned 40 years, uniting tribes, defeating enemies, and preparing the way for Solomon, his son, to build the temple. Before his death, he charged Solomon, "Be strong, show yourself a man, and keep the charge of the Lord." Then the boy with red hair, who once held a sling, lay down in peace. David's story did not end in Jerusalem. Centuries later, from his line was born Jesus Christ, the Son of David, the King of Kings. The shepherd who became king became the shadow of the eternal shepherd, whose throne will never end.